Low interest rates during the past 5 years are due to a large supply of savings and little demand for capital. How can the economy deal with this situation? How can it absorb the large savings glut that is currently flooding the capital market? In the first clip of this series of 3 clips, Interest Rates and the Pill, we have seen how the introduction of the pill led to a large savings glut that is flooding the capital market. Here we see the cause. This is the demographic structure of Germany, the current demographic structure. We see that cohorts born just before the introduction of the pill in 1970 were much larger than the cohorts born after 1995. The reason is that after the introduction of the pill, fertility declined by some 30%, and hence the cohorts born after 1995 are half the size of the cohorts born before 1970. What is the relation of this demographic imbalance to the capital market? The best way to analyze that is to use Milton Friedman's life cycle hypothesis. This picture shows that hypothesis. In the beginning of our life cycle, we borrow money from our parents or from the government to finance our consumption while we're still at school. We have no income and hence we need to borrow. Then we start working around the age of 20. We first repay our debt to the government or to our parents and then start saving for our retirement. And when we retire around the age of 65, our stock of saving is at a maximum. Currently, the cohorts with debts, the green arrow here, are small. The cohorts with large supply of saving, the red arrow here, are very large. And hence we have a savings glut, a large flow of savings entering the capital market, depressing interest rates. How can a society deal with this savings glut? An easy way to think about that is to use the so-called overlapping generation model. In an overlapping generation model, a cohort lives for 2 periods. First they work and earn an income, and then they save during that period for their retirement. But now the problem is, how can they save? Look here, you see 2 consecutive generations. The first generation works in period 1 to save for their retirement in period 2. Then the second cohort comes in period 2, and they work in that period. That second cohort want to save, and they want to save, and the saving can only be used to finance the retirement of the previous cohort. But then the next period, the second cohort want to be repaid to finance their retirement. But by that time, the previous cohort has died, so it can't repay. And that's the problem of the overlapping generations model. Basically, we all want to save to finance our retirement, but we have no way to transfer the money from the people who want to save to the people who want to retire, who want to benefit from the savings by retirement. We want to transfer money basically from one cohort to another, and we have no instrument to do that. How can a society deal with that problem? There are basically 3 solutions, and you see those 3 solutions summarized in this graph. You can either have a pay-as-you-go system. In a pay-as-you-go system, the government comes in. What it does is it forces us to pay pension premiums, and the government uses those pension premiums to pay the retirement, the pensions of the current retirees. That's all mandatory, it's all enforced by the government. The second solution is government debt. The government issues sovereign debt, and the workers are free to buy those sovereign debt. They're happy to do that because they want to save for their retirement, and there are no other assets available than sovereign debt. The government uses the income that they get from issuing those sovereign debt, those bonds, to repay the sovereign debts of the previous period. And that sovereign debt is held by the current retirees, and who use the income to finance their retirement. So here the government comes in to issue debt and to guarantee its repayment next period. There's a third solution where there's no government involved. That's a market solution, but it's a very strange market solution. It involves bubbly assets. Bubbly assets are assets that have no other value, no intrinsic value, apart from our expectation that we can resell them next period. Workers buy bubbly assets from the current retirees. The current retirees use the income that they get from that sale to finance their retirement. The workers buy those bubbly assets because they expect to be able to resell those assets next period to the new cohort of workers. And in that way we have exactly achieved what we want. Namely, I have currently saved to be able to pay my retirement next period. We see here three equivalent solutions which all implement exactly the same outcome. Namely, current workers set apart part of their income and that is used to finance the consumption of the current retirees. In that sense, they are exactly equivalent. But the role of the government is completely different. In the first solution, pay as you go, they impose everything by mandatory regulation. In the second solution, you can buy debt because you like to buy debt, because you want to save. And the third solution, there's no government involved, we have just bubbly assets. Currently, large cohorts are saving for their retirement, and hence a large glut of savings is flooding the capital market, and hence we need one of those three solutions. We see housing prices increase almost everywhere in the world, which might be just a sign of that, bubbly assets increasing in value. The bottom line of this analysis that we have to choose between those alternatives. We can't avoid picking either of them. Either we have to do more pay-as-you-go systems, or we have to issue more sovereign debt, or the price of bubbly assets will go up. That is just the implication of the current demographic imbalance that we currently face in Europe.